monsoon today and throughout the weekend. 110 tomorrow, 108 on Sunday, and then more monsoon action next week. Jim Howell, Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX.
Currently Midtown, it's 104 degrees. Your next news in 30 minutes or when it breaks. Right here on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. I'm Dustin Kapp, and you're up to date.
Welcome to Networking Arizona with host Carol Blonder. You'll hear interviews with businesses located throughout the valley. Networking, it makes a difference.
So welcome to the show, everyone, and I don't know if you guys are hot, but I am really hot right now, and I am so excited to have everybody on my show today, and as you know, I made it possible for everybody to talk about themselves on the radio, and who doesn't like to talk about themselves? If you want to get yourself heard, just give us a call here at the station at 602-277-5369, and they'll get you connected with me, and we'll get you on the show. My first guest has been on my show many times. I'm very excited to have him on. I've read his books. He's an author. His name is Gray McQuarrie, and he is the author of several books, but today we're going to be talking about You Have a Damn Problem. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Carol. I'm really, really nervous today.
Why is that today?
Because I really want a perfect interview.
Okay, let's talk about that because you know what? We're joking. Everybody out there, I'm just going to say we're joking because
I'm not joking. I'm really, really nervous right now.
All right, here's what we're going to do. I want to talk about your book. I love your book. I've read your book cover to cover, and I think that this book is not just for anybody who owns a business, but for anybody. Let's talk about you and the book.
Well, the book was my attempt to understand people so that I could make work teams function a lot better, especially engineers. Engineers are trained many times to look at problems and solve them in a perfect way. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. You know, remember taking that math test and we'd have to get a perfect score and you get an A on it? Well, that isn't the way the real world works. But I also found in writing that other people also suffer from this perfectionism, which is their belief that they have to be perfect.
How many out there are perfectionists? How many people out there? I mean, and can you be a sort of perfectionist like I think I am?
Well, I've defined it very precisely, and I think when we take the test that's in the book, you'll have to tell me whether you can be sort of a perfectionist or not.
Okay. Now, the book is called You Have a Damn, D-A-M, Problem.
Right.
And just tell everybody what it really means.
Well, if you ever feel pressure, you feel stagnation, or things aren't just really flowing, either in your company or in your life, then something's blocking that, and that block is your dam. And you're accountable for that dam because it's associated with your behaviors, which is associated with how you think.
All right. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to open up the lines to the audience. We're going to be taking this test. We want to talk a little bit about the perfectionist. Is it the perfectionist test?
Yes.
Okay. And I want the audience to be listening to decide, answer some of these to yourself.
Yep.
Okay. And we're going to let everybody who calls in with the first one. We're going to give away one book here, and you get to call in, you get to talk on the air, you get to tell them whether if it's you or someone you know who's a perfectionist or even sort of one.
Yeah.
Our number here is 602-277-5369, toll free. It's 1-866-536-1100. I want to hear, are you or somebody you know a perfectionist? What's the first question you would ask me?
I just want to set a context so people understand what I mean by perfectionist before I start the test, and it really comes from this quote: striving for excellence motivates you. Striving for perfection is demoralizing. And we'll get into that later. So with that, let's start the test.
All right.
So I'm turning to the correct page. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, here we go. Here's the first question. Is no job ever done well enough for you? 1 would be never, 5 would be always, and then the numbers in between would be, relatively speaking. So is no job ever done well enough for you? 1 is it's never, and 5, it's always done well enough. 1, it's never done well enough. 5 is always done well enough.
Okay, well, for me, I'm going to say, because I would tell everybody, let me do it because I can do it. You can't do it. I'm going to have to say 5. That's the number one. That's the one.
No, 5 is it's always done well enough for you. It'd
right.
be a 1.
That I would do it.
Would,
if I did it,
yeah.
It would be done well enough. Because if somebody else did it, no, it wouldn't have been done well enough.
You would score 1.
Okay.
Because I'm talking about not you doing it.
So somebody else.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Nope. They wouldn't be able to do it.
Yep. That's not a good sign here, Carol.
How about you guys out there? Who's answering it
I'm
the
glad-
same way?
I'm glad you
being
clarified
honest.
that.
I'm being honest here. Our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. The first one who calls in is going to get a signed autographed copy of the book, and we want to hear what your damn problem is.
I think there's 10 questions here, so
Go ahead.
here's question number 2. I'm really excited about this one. Do you expect others to apologize when they are not perfect?
I have to say yes.
My goodness.
Well, what I think is perfect and what they think is perfect is going to be different, right? Everyone's going to hate me after they listen to the show.
I hope not.
No.
No, they'll probably call in and say, it's okay, Carol. You don't have to be perfect. Question number 3. Do you hate receiving advice?
Well, sometimes. That's where that sometimes perfectionist is. How about that? It depends on who it's from. From your ex-husband, definitely. Go ahead.
I'd like to give you advice on your wardrobe. Is that okay?
Is that a bad
How
thing?
do you feel about that?
Okay, yeah, you can.
I'm not going to do that,
That's
though.
good.
I was just testing
'Cause
you.
I'd be upset
I was
about
watching your face when I asked you
So
that
you know the
question.
answer to
There
that
was
one.
a pause there. Do you want people to say it's perfect about everything you do?
Yeah.
Ouch. Okay. Are you reading this book looking for all the typos and grammatical errors? So when you read this book,
No.
Okay, that's a good sign. Okay. Do you pride yourself in knowing you can always find flaws so you can condemn the person or use it against them?
No,
Okay,
no,
good,
I'm
good,
not
good.
like that.
Whew, praise the Lord. Okay. Do you like to use the word perfect to describe yourself, your life, your children, your work, your expectations, or anything you organize or do?
I probably would say I'm not necessarily thinking about that I'm using it, but I probably use it more than I realize. Like if somebody says something, you want to do that, I'll go, that's perfect.
Yes.
So there you go.
There we go. Is there only one way to do something, and that one only perfect way?
It's my way.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You answered it.
Yeah. And you made that question even more perfect by condensing it that way.
See, there you go.
I think maybe you should rewrite my book. Anyway, okay, we're coming down to the last 2. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Number 9. If someone misspells a word, do you think that they are an idiot?
No, I'm not like that. See, I'm not like that.
Yeah. A lot of managers
Because I misspell them all the time.
and people that are in jobs that are very descriptive
Right.
do that.
Right.
Okay. So, and I've been, oh, great, you have a misspelling, boom, 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 boom. Well, I said, did you understand what I wrote? No, but you have misspellings here, so here, take it. Last and final question. Is it vitally important to you that you be perfectly professional when dealing with people in business?
Well, again, here's that where I think that I always am just because. I mean, that would be me saying I want to be the best that I could be that day. So if I have to answer that right, yes. The answer is yes.
Okay.
So I'm a perfectionist through and through.
Yeah. I think you sort of scored in the middle here.
Okay, that's good. That's a good thing.
So should I read a little bit about what that's about or not?
If we have time, we could start reading, and I'll tell you when you don't have enough time. Go.
Okay. You see perfectionist tendencies in yourself. Congratulations. You're being honest with yourself, and this is your first step toward being better.
Yay.
Yeah. If you scored low on being a jerk, which is the other previous test, but high here, you have an ego dam operating.
Well, you know what? I like that you said I at least am honest about what it is. And if you guys are out there listening and all of you are sitting there laughing at me, but really laughing at yourself too, especially, and you don't have to be a perfectionist. There's lots of other tests in this book for everything. Our number here is 602-277-5369. We want to hear from you. Are you a perfectionist?
If I traded it
So our lines are open here, and we've been making fun a little bit, but at the same time, it's serious. And I was answering pretty much honestly as I could.
Right.
Now, this book is called "You Have a Damn Problem," and it's how to identify and change the behaviors sabotaging your company. But it really doesn't have to be your company, because I read it.
Yeah.
And I felt that it was definitely for anybody. And it's a great book. We're going to open up the lines to the audience for anyone who wants to. We were talking a little bit about your perfectionism. I want you to talk a little bit about your dad and why you even brought this particular test up. But there's lots of different things. The book has several chapters on things, and you can definitely look at yourself. And at the end of them, I love that you can take a test and then kind of decipher where you're at. And our number here is 602-277-5369. And toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Call in, and we want to hear from you. Are you a perfectionist? Do you live with a perfectionist or have a perfectionist, somewhere in your family? Are you even a partial perfectionist, which is what I think I am personally? Okay, let's talk a little bit about you and your father and why you brought up the perfectionism test today.
Well, with my father, we never were very close. He was a thoracic surgeon, and it was important for him to show that he was smarter than the people that he was training, that he was the smartest person in the family. And when you have someone that wants to show sort of a false self that I'm a perfect person, I always have the right answers, it's very difficult to grow up with a person like that. And I didn't realize that was affecting my own life when I went into the working world, because I adopted an attitude that as a young engineer, that only my way was the right way. If you recall, that was one of the questions, is it only your way?
Right.
And what happens is that caused a lot of stress for me, a lot of emotional stress, and would cause me to act up in ways that weren't productive. Getting over that and working through that and writing the books and understanding a lot about psychology and brain biology and the observations that I had in terms of what makes bad teams and what makes great teams is one of the keys. Has to be that there is more than one right way. Absolutely more than one right way.
And you're right. And as you're sitting here now, and I think about when my mom was alive and my dad would say, let me do it. And I said that same thing. And it's my dad saying that too. I'm exactly like him in so many ways. And I remember her finally getting him a T-shirt that said Mr. Wonderful on it, because, I guess he could do anything type of thing. But it does affect you. And and even when I go to see my dad now, and he's almost 90 years old, and even then he will say things like, I'll do that. And I can still feel that same feeling as when I was a kid too.
Yeah. Now my dad's dead now, and he died of alcoholism, and he hid the alcoholism because he had to portray this picture of perfection. So it was massive denial, and that was very painful for me. If you let go, what does perfectionism, lack of perfectionism look like? It's really letting go. It's accepting I can get input from anyone, that there's more than one right way to do it, and I don't have to be judged. What right does someone have to judge my approach to life or what I am doing? And so this perfectionist attitude that my dad had prevented him from getting the help that he needed for his alcoholism that would have extended his life.
People resonate with this because they call it.
You can see how I've interweaved life with business, because life and business are connected.
Well, because our business is our lives.
Yeah.
And that's what we do all day long. And we have our lines open here. I know you're calling, but you can also, if you want to chime in and talk about what you feel, if you have this situation or any type of close to it or whatever, you can call in and talk. Our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100.
So when you have a dad like that, how do you love them? How do you love them? How do you reconcile it? Because I always wanted my dad to be perfect. I wanted my mom to be perfect. I wanted to have perfect parents.
I thought they were perfect. I mean, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And so in the epilogue, I talked about how I reconciled that. Mm-hmm. Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner, yet he talked about liberty, and everybody had a right to freedom and to liberty and to live the life that they chose, and yet he owned over 100 slaves. How do you reconcile that? Mm-hmm. And there was a beautiful quote by Thomas Jefferson that basically said, if I were to love perfect people, then there would be no love to give. That's essentially what his quote says in sort of the older type English. So then if you can accept people, even when they are perfectionists in your teams, And you can help them say, you don't have to be perfect. There's more than one right way, and you contributed in this beautiful way. You can help steer them because it's a behavioral type of thing. It's in our brain biology. There's a reason why in our brains why we want to be perfect.
Well, and again, I want to stress out that too, for me, when I read the book,
Yep.
I don't have a team, and that's what I mean. You don't have to have necessarily a team, though it does work for that.
I always thought we were a team.
I'm a team with every single person that comes on my show.
Exactly. And you work with them really well.
Thank you. I'm a perfectionist. That's why.
Okay.
But here's what I was going to bring out. The point is that for me, what I got out about reading with reading your book was that it was for me every step of the way that I felt that I was reading about me, and it helped me think about myself more, and that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, and I tried to write it in a very personal way, and I expose all of my sins, you might say, and so it makes it a very different business book because most business books are so dry, they're so antiseptic, and they typically don't work when you actually try to apply them to the real world.
Well, there's all sorts of things that you talk about, and I'm going to bring it out because it's not just perfectionism at all, okay? But you talk about, the person who's the jerk, the person who thinks they're entitled.
Yes.
Who's, I think, a jerk. Okay.
Yes.
A righteous person. They all, to me, if we all feel that we are all of the above, but then, and those are the people that I go in that category of under the umbrella of a jerk, right?
Right.
But then there's those victims out there, and you talk about that too, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, the victim requires the sanction of the, the dominator or the rock star or what have you. The victim really has to stand up for themselves. No one can come in and rescue you. So if you're victimized by someone that is a jerk and is a perfectionist and isn't entitled and is a rock star, which I talk about in the book, you have a choice to walk away from that rock star. And I just had a discussion today with an old friend in business, and he said, I think I have a rock star. And I said, reread the book. And he says, I am, because he didn't want to fire him. And I says, I know it's scary to fire someone that you think is running the show, and you don't want them to do it that way. And they're a rock star, and they're only thinking about themselves. You got to fire them in business, because it's not good business when someone thinks the business is them. The business always has to be bigger than that in order to be profitable.
You can get this book at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. But also here we have everybody who's calling in. They're just calling in. We're going to go ahead and enter them in to win one. It's the number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. Do you want to talk more about your dad at all? I know you were kind of talking a little bit about that today. Is there anything else that you want to go into on the book right now?
Well, I think the issue with regards to perfectionism and letting it go is a key.
How do people do that?
Well, one way I do it is I admit that I'm imperfect. I actually tell people that I'm working with, by the way, I'm incompetent, and they laugh at that. And I said, please talk to me as if I don't know anything, because by listening to what you're saying, I'm probably going to pick something up new. Because what perfection is it's the learning dam. And if you have a learning dam, you can't discover anything new because you think you know it all.
Now, isn't that your other book?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it real quickly.
Well, that's sort of the beginner book before I went into that, and I talk about these dams that are behind these behaviors, so you can actually deconstruct what perfectionism is in terms of these dam things. So if you're a perfectionist, you're also a jerk. You have an ego dam, which means I think I'm better than you, and I got to show that I am better than you. And that kills productivity. And if you're a perfectionist, you have a learning dam, which means I know it all, and that blocks discovery. So by having perfectionists in your company or in your life, you're going to block discovery, and you're going to block productivity. And then there's three more dams, and there's these other behaviors that pile on top of all this stuff.
So I know that you're going to be coming on again, and when you do, I want to. Well, we do have one already scheduled.
Yes.
So, but I want you to bring the other book because I've never seen that book yet.
Okay.
I want to do it on both of them,
Sure.
so we can intertwine them a little bit.
No problem. Love to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I got so much out of this book, and I also like the way that you talk about your stories. And
Yes.
some of them, if you want to bring up one really quickly, we do have some time here. Which one would you say? I mean, the last time you were on, you talked a little bit about the one that you drove your car.
I drove my Jeep in the car. The other one is when I went to Taiwan long ago, and I was told that I was supposed to tell the customer that we could do a particular thing. And they were really putting pressure on me to say if they used our products that they would have perfect processes, that they would have perfect product. And the way that was expressed is in terms of the Six Sigma way, the CPK equal to 2 or what have you. But basically it says perfect, perfection. CPK equal to 2 is perfection. And so I stood up in front of this big room of Taiwanese, and it was the second biggest company in Taiwan. And they asked me halfway through the presentation, if we use your product, will we have perfect product? And I said, absolutely not. And the room went quiet. And when I was done with the presentation, they all exited, and they all started talking in Mandarin, which they were told not to do because people wanted to hear the conversation. I was with a bunch of Japanese, and so they were frustrated. They were very unhappy with me. I flew back, and as soon as I got back home, there was a bunch of faxes saying, send him back. He's the only one that was honest. We want to do business with your company, and we want this guy to help us. So you got to stick to your guns. You got to stick to your standards, and you got to admit that you're not perfect. And if you do that, life will open up and be much more wonderful for you, both in business and in life.
It's absolutely true. The book is called You Have a Damn Problem. The other one is that you have to learn
Change your damn thinking.
Change your damn thinking. And I have to say that every time I have a situation where I think about things and I want to go back and I'll look at it, I think there's something that everybody can get something out of this book, and take the test at the end of them, and you're going to see you've got a damn problem yourself, not just everybody else. And that's another topic.
I have a damn problem too. So,
everybody
no joke.
does. Again, we're going to let you call throughout the rest of the show. 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Do you have a damn problem? We all do.
Thank you.
This is the Blaze Radio.